Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Ian Bernard, the Head of Security Governance Compliance with CTS. Today's session is to try and identify and highlight some of the key risks we think you should be aware of in your organization. It's kind of a high level, and we will provide some documentation and guides around best practices, but we're going to highlight the things that we're seeing at the moment as common trends and understanding the risks to yourselves as legal professionals. So part of the content today is going to be around social media and law firms, understanding the risks, the common risks that you're aware of, and the less sort of unknown risks, and some key tips and guidance how to minimize that. For final thoughts, and then we'll open up the floor to questions. So social media and law firms, it's becoming such a common tool nowadays across all sectors and organizations. The number of users within social media, we're in the region 2.93 billion just for Facebook and 486 million for Twitter, which are the common platforms we're seeing quite a bit of. We've noticed a trend that now law firms and chambers are sort of moving down that road of using social media as a way to engage with clients and build that sort of profile of yourselves within the wider sector. Just last year alone, there were 11.2 million imposter accounts which are closed through Twitter. The current estimates are that's going to increase to 20 million in the next 12 to 18 months. And we've got similar sort of figures across the other three key social medias sites that you can see on the screen at the moment. Now, what we're seeing is that it's great to have social media, it helps you get new clients. It enables clients to find you and makes it easier for you to communicate with them. It's a good place for legal professionals to engage with each other. It's great for your networking aspect. It's really, really good for your brand awareness. And we're seeing a trend now where people are celebrating their successes through social media. And it's become more commonplace, and it's a good platform to do that on. But what we want you to be encouraged with and understand is that there are some settings and configurations we recommend you do to prevent any risk of these causing you issues in the future. Some of the key risks which are more commonplace and you probably are aware of. Loss of intellectual property and sensitive data. This risk itself has been seen with people leaking information, theft of intellectual property, inappropriate releases or unplanned releases of information into the social media platforms. The compliance violations, this is a common one, communicating data, information that violates applicable laws and regulations. It's something to be really aware of because of the stringent controls and the Data Protection Act, GDPR, those kinds of acts are coming into force now through social media platforms. Reputation loss is another big factor to consider. If you had a really big sensitive breach of information, of sensitive client information, the reputation that follows with this could be massive across the whole of your organization. It doesn't affect one individual, it affects everyone within your organization. So the things we've seen reputation loss is inappropriate employee behavior, setting unrealistic expectations or customer service expectations, inappropriate messages which are intended only for internal or personal use. And because the individuals who are using social media are tied in or linked in to your profile online, that is a domino effect and you're tainted with the same brush. So it is important to understand what's happening in terms of your connections and people you socialize with on these social media platforms. Understand and review all requests when people try and sign up to be a friend request or a follower or someone who tags you within posts. It can be really, really damaging to your reputation as an organization. The financial piece is another one to be aware of. Financial disclosure. People have raved about how well an organization has done, and they've celebrated that we've had so much turnover this year, or we've won a big case, or all these kinds of things are the kind of bits of information that hackers and threat actors will use to build profiles and understand and create those targets associated with yourself and the organization. The other financial impact is the fines. Data protection fines are one to be aware of. It is so easy to lose this and lose control of your social media platform, not just your own personal one using for your organization, but within your employees and people associated within the business itself. So these impact and fines, its accountability principle under data protection and GDPR, means you're just as accountable for these data breaches. So there is the potential for a fine. Now, these are the obvious ones that you probably are more than likely aware of. The less obvious ones are around safety. Safety is confidential information about activities of an individual within your organization. They will use that information for social engineering attacks. And some examples of that is a criminal purporting to be the CEO sends a fake email to a member of the finance team, and they've used the reference that he's away, or he or she is away at a conference or busy doing a presentation or a seminar in court, and the request is an urgent request for payment to be made. And they're relying on this information to build up those profiles of you as individuals and of the organization. So they'll use those kinds of posts to try some phishing campaigns and a bit of social engineering. There's an effect on HR when recruiting employees and having employees recruited by competitors. They are using these more commonplace now. Organizations we've seen, recruitment agencies are using the social media platform to try and understand people and their roles and building up those profiles, not just from the social media aspect, but also from the LinkedIn and professional pages people use. What we've seen a spike in recently is identity theft. Now, the criminals will use your credentials you post online, your business card. They can use the websites where we publish usernames and individuals or people who are representatives of your organization. They will build a profile in you based on what's freely available in the public. In addition to what you publish on LinkedIn or on your website, they will use social media to build that profile of you. And in some cases, we've seen people posting pictures of their home address. I've seen payslips posted accidentally, credit card on the dining room table. Someone's taken a photo and there's a credit card which you can zoom in and see all that information. Posting pictures of their holiday bookings and plans. So they're using this information to build that profile of you as an individual. And they will use that on a regular basis to try and gain access to your environment. They'll use your passwords, they'll create passwords based on what information they've built about you as an individual. The other thing to be very aware of is third-party apps. Now, third-party apps, even if you secured your social media accounts, there are backdoors built into these apps. There's a trust application built into some of these applications, and that is what hackers are exposing. So just be aware of any third-party apps that ask you for permission to gain access to all your contacts or another application or system. So if you click on Facebook and wants to pull your information from that, Twitter asks for permission to use your Facebook credentials or use contacts within your Facebook. It's these tools and these links in called APIs that they are actively hacking and exposing the vulnerability on. And through this, they gain access to your social media profile. And people post quite a lot on there. And what we're going to do, as I said with the guide, give you some guidance on how to protect your social media account. Things like Instagram is making sure your GPS location setting is off. People can actively track you through that if you add them as friends within your social media network. It's making sure that you're aware of the impact to you as an individual and also to your organization. The other big thing is it's negative feedback. We've given users a public platform where they can voice dissatisfaction and can be really damaging to your organization. And it's oftentimes very difficult to get these posts and these statements taken down. It's a long drawn out process. You need to look out for things like the blue tick, which says that people are authenticated as a genuine user, or authenticated user. These fake accounts, especially now with the change with Elon Musk and Twitter, you can pay £8 a month and get the blue tick to show that you're authenticated or a valid user. People are using this now to gain access to your social media. Stranger danger is one of the top ones for me. Is always look out for people who want to connect with you, especially if you're running the organization's social media pages, be it Twitter, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Look out for these requests. There are people out there who have got mass mailers and applications and systems that will just trawl through social media accounts and try and add you to their sort of friends group or a social group that they've created. There was also cases where they are trying to take over your account. There will be someone who says, I'm an influencer. I want you to be part of my social group. We're getting bigger and bigger. We're doing wonderful things with all these sponsors. They will send you a prompt. You click on a link, and before you know it, you give them access to your account. So look out for any messages and unknown individuals who are trying to constantly be associated with you, or friend requests, or adding you to social groups or to mailing groups in particular. There are some examples of things we've seen where the impact on the legal sector is we've had solicitors suspended for blogging about a case anonymously. They found some information out through some of the forensics, the Met Police forensics team got information data through and managed to identify the individuals leaking information around that. There's been cases where people have been suspended over anti-Semitic comments on their personal page. So be wary of anything you post. Unfortunately, it is in the public domain and it's difficult to get rid of. And these kinds of things feed back into that risk about your reputational damage. It absolutely should be top priority for you. So what we'll do is, we'll cover off next is around how to minimize this risk. From a business perspective, it's always important to have clear policies and guidelines for employees or people in charge of your marketing campaigns and your social media profile and your internet footprint. You need to try and increase awareness across the organization, not just from the people looking after your social media, but your employees, as well as other legal professionals you deal with on a regular basis. We encourage you to also try and get some form of cyber awareness training. And cyber awareness training is quite a broad field, but there are so many things that you need to look out for, and the training will highlight the key things that you need to be aware of in terms of what's actually out there and active threats and current trends. We've got the guides, which we'll share with you around the privacy settings. Make sure they're enabled to protect your account, but don't just think that if we put the privacy settings in place, it can protect you as an individual. There are backdoors into it through other applications and systems. It's being aware and having that foresight to understand what the risks are and plan ahead and notice the triggers and some of the key things that are going to cause issues for you later on. Absolutely enable 2FA or multi-factor authentication. All the social media platforms now have got this capability. It's definitely worthwhile doing it. I would encourage you not to do it just for yourself. If you've got children who use social media or use Facebook, or even some of these gaming sites, there is a guide which we'll share around setting up the configuration and making sure those sites are secure as well. Because that threat and that risk, because the child is using a laptop, they can get into that environment and gain access to your internal Wi-Fi and networks if you don't have the right security controls in place. So just be aware that these are the kind of things that they are taking advantage of now. Do not post personal data. This is one that is going to definitely cause issues for us in the future. We've seen a couple of times where a case file has been photographed, just the case number and the case file was on the corner of a picture. They will use this information, and we've seen the phishing campaigns start from this kind of post. You've seen situations where they've gained access to an individual's mail account and used some of the social media credentials which have been found online. So the key thing for you is to understand where your credentials are posted online. There's an email, the website called haveibeenpawned.com. It is really worthwhile doing a search for that. Put in your personal email address and your work email address and see if your credentials will be leaked anywhere within the organization. Now, as humans, we are creatures of habit. And when it comes to changing our passwords, we change our password and add an extra digit on the end or change the number by 1. And this is common practice across every single sector. We encourage you to use passphrases, complex passphrases, to reduce the risk of this happening. So if you go to that website and have a look and see if your credentials have been leaked on there, we recommend you go across all your social media platforms and other accounts where you've used that password or similar password and change them. Get your multi-factor authentication set up. Make sure you're actively keeping an eye on what personal information is out there. and stranger danger. Absolutely stranger danger. If you don't know someone, they try and befriend you on social media, especially if you're managing it for the organization. Please don't accept the link. Do some background checks. There's ways to check for individuals and to verify who they are. Have a look at their profile. Have a look at the kind of things they're posting. It gives you some awareness of the key things that they are looking to do, what they do actively, and you should see some red flags based just on the profile and the postings of the individual. So final thoughts. It's a bit of a whistle-stop tour. There are so many short pitfalls and so many really easy things to do to secure yourself, but the dangers are inherent and they're getting worse and worse. So just be aware, social media is not always your friend. We encourage you to use it sparingly if possible, and make sure you've got controls, policies and procedures in place to understand those risks and minimize them within the organization. So understand how it's being used by employees. Make sure the person who's authorized to do it has been properly trained on cybersecurity and awareness. Be mindful of how they're using that, what you're posting. When we celebrate our successes, don't put too much information into it. It's not the platform for that. The risks aren't always obvious, so stay vigilant all the time. Any application, if you've logged into social media from your laptop and it says, would you like to add this toolbar? Or would you like to add this add-in to your Outlook or to your social media account? Recommendation is to have a look online and just see what this tool actually does, because these are the ways they're harvesting that information and using the social media platform and the plugins to pull that data across. Training, open communication, policies, procedures, and having guards in place is your single most effective way of doing this. With the best will in the world and the best security, no matter what we've got in our systems of where we host our stuff internally with whatever MSP you're with, this kind of stuff still gets through. And the first line of defense is your end user. So please make sure we are training and using the guides that are available and educating our staff around what the risks are and what we deem as acceptable as an organization. Have a policy and some guidelines around social media. And that was the best way for you to mitigate that risk. So I want to say thank you very much to everyone for attending today. We're always here to help, so feel free to get in touch with anyone within CTS, come to the service desk if you need to, or the contact details come to our marketing team. We're happy to field those questions. We will publish any questions we get online so that they are available for you to have access to.